radio show on 97.7 FM, The City.
Greetings, blessings, good fortune, everybody. Glad to see you on this Thursday. It's great, okay? If you saw our preview, and even if you didn't, it's okay, because we are here live from the McAllen Creative Incubator, KCYP, The City, 97.7 FM, here in McAllen, Texas. Okay, it's the Bitcoin Otter Show, and I got a special guest today. I am going to introduce to you Mr. Omar Rodriguez, who's going to give you a few details about him while I get us on the chat for you guys all to participate. Omar, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I'd like to start off by saying thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Of course.
Your audience, I feel privileged to be out here and be a part of history. You're sharing the greatness and the future of what is our economic enterprise, and I dig that, man. I dig that all day.
Thank you.
A little bit about myself, local entrepreneur, comedian, enthusiast of the arts, and at the end of the day, man, truly intrigued by where the conversation is going to go today. I'm looking forward to seeing what we're able to discuss and bring to light, man. So we had a good conversation behind stage, and heck, that was a podcast in itself, bro. We went through quite a bit of
We did.
stuff out there.
What Omar's referring to is we bumped into each other first time we ever met.
Yeah.
But man, it was like we were going and a lot of everyone we have a few people that are new to the show, but most of the people are very familiar. Already we got Dan in the show here. We got Maria. We've got okay. Apparently Dan says the mic is off. Omar's mic is off.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll work on that. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. So we're gonna basically just get into stuff, as you guys already know. And what I want to do is, and I'm hoping that you guys appreciate it, is I'm going to talk about things the way I usually do, but I don't get immediate feedback. And yeah, a lot of times you guys are on, and I appreciate you being here. That you can give me feedback on the string, but sometimes things happen in this and that. We got it live. I'm telling you, just based off of the conversation that I had with him, Dan, you for one. He's on the same wavelength as us. Ya sabe la onda. He is there, man. He knows what's up. He's inquisitive, okay? He may not have studied in the same lines that I've studied in, but he knows what he's talking about. Let's put it this way. He knows Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He knows The Creature from Jekyll Island. That anyone who knows that if you know those things, that you know what we're going to talk about. Pretty much, okay? And if you don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Come on in with any questions or comments you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with what we usually start off with. And this is how it works, Omar, usually.
Okay, cool, man.
Sometimes I believe that the barometer of our financial situation can be read in certain markers.
Yeah,
and
sure.
those markers are gold, silver, Bitcoin, and the mortgage rate. Okay? So gold today, when I was doing show prep, $1,920 for an ounce of gold. So again, what I believe that gold is 1,920 times better than the US dollar, right? Simple for me anyway. So $22.96 is today's silver spot, right? So Bitcoin, 30,000 times better than the US dollar, my opinion, right? I'm not a financial advisor, Omar.
I mean, if you look at the world debt clock, which is a very interesting tool to
Yes.
use, you actually are being very, very modest because gold is substantially higher in value based upon the inflation rate of the initial value
Absolutely.
of what gold is. And many people believe, including myself, that silver for the greater part of the last 5 decades has been definitely market manipulated.
Absolutely.
And the price of silver has been contained. And a lot of people who have insight into those markets will concur just by the utility of gold, and the utility of silver.
Right.
Although there is the huge conversation about the Indo expansion into space and how gold is actually one of the necessary substances for interstellar travel. And that's pretty interesting.
Dude!
I don't know if you checked that out.
No, I haven't. That's new to me. But send me some sources, please. We'll share info and contact and all that.
Yeah,
and I'll follow
along,
up.
by the way.
Awesome.
Yeah,
See,
for sure, yeah.
see, I told you he's creative. I told you.
No. No, there's some truth to that.
I hear you. It sounds like it. Usually they're talking about silver as the most usable metal, the most industrial. It has the most industrial uses.
On the atmosphere of Earth, yes. But if we're going to start going into interstellar travel, there's some people who believe that they're actually keeping the price of gold down so that they can start preparing for
I hear you.
mass
I hear you.
transit
I hear you.
Because the density of lead versus the density of gold in the dissipating factor of the radar, or not the radar. I'm sorry, of the
radiation.
Of the radiation.
Yeah, Van Allen belt or whatever it is.
That's actually brought in is can be reduced greatly. By the amount of gold being used wrapped around, I guess, a space shuttle.
Wow.
Yeah,
I got to look into that.
Yeah, you got to look into it.
I'll get back with you, everybody, on that one.
But you're talking about economics, man. Where are things going, man? What are you thinking, man? What do you want to
economics. Wow. Well, let's put it this way. Let me go on to the last barometer there.
Yeah.
Our 30-year rate, average U.S., is 7.1%, and it's only been going up.
Yeah, for sure.
So 15-year rate is not far behind at 6.47 average.
Now, oddly, a healthy economy runs at about an 8.
Did not know that.
Yeah, when you look at statistical analysis of what happens in the market. Now, keep in mind, though, as you approach 8, then you go into 10, and then that rate is what causes economic decline. So it's we're an interesting economic flow that, much like our political system, instead of kind of staying in the middle, we tend to like to sway from one extreme to the other.
Right, which is unstable, yet the Federal Reserve was designed to stabilize us, and it's not working so much. Let me give it a shout out. We got Dan, the other Dan. Glad to see you, Dan.
Is that Dan the
Two
man?
Dans.
Or the man?
Dan
Dan?
the man Dan. We got Dan the man and
Man the Dan.
Man the Dan. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Okay. And then Albert, good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, says Mike is still off. Dan says Mike is still off. We're working on this, guys. We're trying to get Joe's working furiously behind the scenes. You got to see him. I think there's steam coming out of his ears.
It's almost like the scene from Airplane, the amount of sweat that
yeah. Hey, it's the radio. What is it? It's a big green thing with knobs, but that's not important right now. So
it's the real deal, man.
So, by the way, guys, Omar is a comedian of sorts, okay? Maybe not of sorts, he's a real one. He's a real comedian. So
we got a show next week, man. We'll actually be at Barrel House on Thursday the 13th.
Barrel House, where's that at?
That's in Edinburgh.
All right.
It's going to be the old cubby hole. And then on the 14th, we'll be at Kicking Axes here in McAllen. That should be a good show, man.
Awesome.
We're bringing down Zachariah Tippett, who is most notably known for being on Kill Tony.
Okay.
Which is like a show with Joe Rogan and, of course,
Sweet.
Kill Tony. And,
Sweet.
And then we also got Junebug. Junebug will be coming down. These guys are hilarious, man. They've traveled all over. He's been on the tour with the Latin Kings of Comedy. Just some really funny guys.
Cool.
We're lucky to be bringing them down. And then we got a lot of amazing comedians been doing comedy for maybe 5 to 10 years. You got Humberto Moreno coming out. He's from here from the Valley, but he's gone all over the place. And you got Roy Gomez and a couple of really talented people. Joseph Soto, who's been out here as well, man. Share
with me that info, and I'll share it with my viewers and my compadres on the Bitcoin Otter station and the Bitcoin Otter Facebook page.
Heck yeah, man.
So yeah. So what about the Dan? We good with the mic on Omar's side? Okay.
Like when we buy oil, we won't have to buy it.
Exactly.
We won't have to pay
and you just hit the commodity because Zero Hedge. I don't know if you ever watched or listened to Zero Hedge. Read it. Says Indian refiners payments to Russia, Argentina, payment to IMF, both in yuan. So they're basically paying in yuan instead of dollars now.
Oh, that's huge.
What does that mean? That means all those dollars that are not going to be used, they're not going to have to keep them in reserves, are going to come back here and flood our economy.
Yeah. So what's the solution for that?
The solution is to let the system die. It's going to die, Omar. We need it to die.
I mean, when you look at death as a whole, it gives the essence of rebirth. So what's the rebirth?
The rebirth, in my opinion?
Yeah, for sure, man.
This is my opinion. Now, the bad guys have one idea of how it's going to work. That's called central bank digital currency. And the good guys have another way that they're not so overt about.
Why is it going to be good guys and bad guys? Why can't it be those guys and these guys?
Great question. It's because it's the good and evil dynamic. It plays its way out through everything. The warp and the woof of our whole world is good and evil. And we are one or the other. We like to sit on the fence sometimes, but you got to choose a side.
I believe it's called the Hegelian dialectic.
There you go.
And is this a playbook out of Morals and Dogma from Albert Pike?
It could be. It could very well be. That's Albert Pike is like ancient Illuminati type stuff, guys. He's going back where they were formulating the plan. We're almost at endgame, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm talking about is these globalist, communist, evil criminals. They have us at the point they thought they had us at the point they wanted us.
Do you think they're? I mean, but they don't look at themselves as criminals. Possibly globalists. They possibly do look at themselves as globalists.
They're definitely globalists. They have no
qualms about that.
Yeah, they have no qualms about it, and they have no allegiance to any nation in the world. No, there is no sovereignty of a nation state, according to them.
Do you really think that we'll go back to a gold standard?
I pray it'll go back to a gold standard. Gold, in the minds of some people, is God's money. Right?
He did say, look for gold.
And I was just looking here, we got Maria from Linares.
Linares, Texas.
Maria, pues muchas gracias por
What's up, Maria?
vernos en el día de hoy.
¿Cómo está, Maria?
Muy bien. Gracias. So, when it comes to a gold-backed currency or even any asset-backed currency, okay, it doesn't have to be gold, okay? So we could do it in silver. We could do it something that has a legitimate value that someone could say, I'm going to trade this US dollar for this much gold, okay? So they know that if they're able to do that, and they're going to test first, right? If they can trade this piece of paper for something of value, then they're going to denote that piece of paper with the value of that asset, and they'll be okay with the paper.
I mean, I believe that you're correct. I mean, as far as seeing how these different processes work, but I'm intrigued, man. I'm intrigued because I think it's going to be harder than simply doing it. Some of the most recent attempts have not ended well. I think was it 2010? I think 2010 you saw Libya go into a direction.
Muammar Gaddafi had his country ready to go. They were going to rock and roll. They were going to be more prosperous than they had ever been before.
Yeah, I think that they were focusing on legitimizing their currency, basing it upon oil, gold, silver, and title, right? Like title to land.
Exactly.
That's what they
exactly. And they have a huge aquifer there. The whole story is just amazing. And one of these days I might even do a show on it as an example of what the usual suspects do to up and coming nations. We got Ian, we got Renee, and we got Michael. Hey Mike, hey Ian, hey Renee. Glad to see you guys. Ian and Maria's still here from Linares. Awesome. So we're here with Omar Rosselli. Good to see you. We're here with Omar Rodriguez, local comedian. He's going to be coming out. We'll wrap it up. When we wrap up, we'll go again in the beginning of the show if you want to get that review. He said where he's going to be next week. And then coming up at the end of the show, we'll wrap it up and I'll give him another shot at throwing out where he's going to be and what they're going to be doing here locally, everybody. He's a local talent. And now he's on the show, okay? Awesome. So we'll go with this. So we had the de-dollarization. They're not going to be using the dollar anymore for many different things, okay? Now here's another one, ladies and gentlemen, and this might not at first hit you as something that is going to affect you, but if it affects a guy like Nigel Farage was a political person in England, and he was bringing a nationalistic platform to England, meaning England first, right? The people of England first, right? Well, they don't like that. The usual suspects hate that because it's nationalist. He believes in his country. He's a patriot of his country, okay? So what did they do? This is from his Twitter feed. Just to keep people up to date, says Nigel, I have just had the 9th bank rejection confirmed. Maybe I need to go to law and fight this for the sake of so many people. I don't want to live in communist China. What does he mean? He can't get banked in England. They've all conspired against him so that he cannot have a banking institution in England. How do you pay your bills? How do you do things? How do you pay the car note? How do you do things? How do you buy your groceries? If you don't have a bank, what do you do? How do how do people pay you?
I mean, I guess his option is move out of England.
That's what they want him to do. Right? That's exactly what they want because he is a polarizing figure in England. A lot of people, they like the guy because they're patriots too. Right? So they take the banking away. And here's where I'm going with this. Yeah, One of these days, they're going to do it to you because you know what? They already did it to me. You know why they did it to me? Because the Federal Reserve System announced 6-8 months back that anything that deals, any type of corporation, organization, and in my case, it's an association that deals in either Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in any way, is a danger. and will not be banked by the Federal Reserve System. So I was with a local bank, and they debanked me. The Bitcoin Otter Association, it's a private membership association, was banked with a local bank. They debanked me. They cut me off because of that new regulation.
Isn't that awesome, though? Because now you have the option to go to Puerto Rico.
I could do a lot of stuff. Right now, I've got it like a mixture. Yeah, I got a mixture of how I'm getting it done.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not ideal. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, these are things that might seem, hey, it's an ocean away. Nigel Farage, I'm nowhere near him. I wasn't a political figure, you might say to yourself. But it's coming home.
I think it's been here, though, in what David Icke describes as a totalitarian tiptoe, man. I mean, it's been around for a long time. I had a conversation one time with one of the DAs here locally, and we're talking about mandatory blood draws. And
they had one last weekend.
And yeah, they did. And my guest for the second hour was a gentleman who was a Reformation preacher. And I go, you know what? As I'm talking to the DA, I go, you know what? I would like to have the same authority. I would like to walk into court on a Monday and randomly at will pick judges and lawyers and have them give me a urinalysis. Mm-hmm. And he goes, it doesn't work that way. And the second guest goes, then that is tyranny. And he goes, who is that? Who said that? And I introduced the man, and he goes on to say, he goes, any man who will subjugate people to something that they're not willing to subjugate themselves to is a tyrant.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to accept that, you know.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of where we're at in a lot of different. You look at things like mandatory blood draws is one thing that leads to a whole other series of violations. Your fourth and your Fifth Amendment right. But then unlawful seizure, man. You see a lot of these folks the asset forfeiture. Yeah. That's a huge problem.
It is. But the public at large has the attitude that, oh, he was doing something wrong. He's got $10,000 in his vehicle. He's got to be doing something wrong.
There's even more to it, I guess, than that. Like there's some people who believe there's a lot of conspiracies, right? Critical thinking. But yeah, man, I guess when you look into those things, man, there's some. What do they say? I guess there's some meat on that bone.
Yeah.
You just kind of got to pick at it.
Yeah, I would like to consider myself as a libertarian. Not to the extreme of anarchy. We have to have the rule of law, but everyone should be beholden to the same rule of the same law.
Man, I the older I get, I guess I got more jaded. I think justice is blind. Like I think it is fair, but it isn't fair, but it's kind of fair.
We're seeing that right now, man. I don't know. Just to use an analogy, if let's just say we'll use me for an example. Thank God my dad's still alive, right? Do you think that if I went on some sort of bender to Vegas, driving at 172 miles an hour while on coke, and it gets found and thrown on social media, and then I get caught in a gun crime, do you think I'd get a break from that? Do you think the justice system would say, oh, hey man, your dad's who? So I'm going with Hunter Biden, right? I'm going with Hunter Biden. The guy got a break because of who his dad is.
I mean, but isn't that what makes America great? Like the fact that you could get away with that because of who your dad is. I don't think so. That's not a part of. I'm being sarcastic.
I know you are.
I'm being sarcastic, but
I get you.
Yeah, but I think there's some truth to that though. Like on some level, I think if we pretend like that's not real, then we might miss it. It's literally right there.
I know.
You kind of looking at
it.
And
the biggest block to truth nowadays, in my mind, is the mainstream media. They are there for nothing more than to hide the truth from the American people.
I mean, there's still good journalists out there, but
there are.
Yeah,
but they're rare.
You know what? I think it's I don't buy that. I think it's like the bad cop scenario. I think there's a lot less bad cops than there are good cops. There's a lot of great cops.
I would agree with that.
And I think on journalists too, man. There's the few bad ones though. They just get prime time. That's what sucks.
True.
And then the other guys are out there busting their butt. You got the Gary Webbs who get accidentally drowned in 3 inches of water or something like that.
Gary Webb, ladies and gentlemen, was the guy who brought you the real story of what they used for American Made and Kill the Messenger. Those are the two movies made after Gary Webb's reporting.
Yeah, kind of sad though, man. Like when you look at how his life ended up, and it makes me realize too, as somebody who's gone through the attempts at bringing honesty and journalism to truth.
Right.
I've realized it's not a comfortable subject, and most people don't want it in their own backyard or in their front page.
He blew, ladies and gentlemen, just to give context to this, he blew open the story that the CIA was importing cocaine from Colombia into the United States. That's what Gary Webb did. He worked for the San Jose
Gazette,
something like that. Yeah.
Gazette, yeah,
something like that. But he worked in it. It was a California outlet. Here we go. We got Dan says anarchy is fascist. I believe it. Perfect sound, and all because of the
like it.
the Munst Act. It legalized propaganda thanks to Obama. Yes, it did. It did. So I don't know if you.
I'm not familiar with the Munst Act. No, man.
Yeah. So in the Obama days, the Munst Act allowed the United States government to propagandize. Okay.
Okay.
So it made it legal for them to basically churn out disinformation, which is what they're railing against. And I have this here. We'll get into that. Disinformation is what the government calls what you and I call truth.
I mean, it's kind of like we have. Well, one, if the government allowed that and we put it into legislation, how interesting, right? Like that. When I see something like that go into legislation, I think, who's trying to negate liability? And that's the real issue of that legislative purpose, and even that thought process, like just having that thought process. If you're the kind of person who, obviously, you're watching the show, you think like that, you're in danger. No, they're looking for you, and you're on a list. Let me tell you, that's what concerns me.
Yeah,
the fact that like you can't be a critical thinker.
We're all on that list, Omar. And Dan says. It was part of the CFR.
Council of Foreign Relations.
I believe so. And then to avoid government closure. A closure or disclosure? I'm not sure, Dan. Alfred, you're on. Shutdown. Okay. So it was something about a government shutdown. I'm not sure exactly how that all worked, Dan. I don't remember that was a component of it, but...
interesting.
Yeah. I don't. Dan is up on this stuff. He knows what he's talking about. I just don't get. I don't make the connection right now. But here's where I'm going with this. So in the Washington Times, right, which is a little better than the Washington Compost. So judge's order.
That's your opinion. You're entitled to it, and you're entitled to
yes,
it. Yes,
thank you. See, this is why we need balance, because I rant and he's here to call me on it. He may agree, but he is clarifying that it's my opinion.
It's your opinion. You're
right.
entitled to it. Yeah,
he's right. Judge's order blocking Biden big tech censorship spurs free speech debate. So this is from the Washington Times. A federal judge's momentous 4th of July order barring the federal government from colluding with big tech to suppress speech triggered an object lesson in how one person's free expression is another person's misinformation. Okay?
Yeah.
That is from the Washington Times. You would have heard a much different narrative for the Washington Post.
I think you would have heard a much different narrative if you watched those sessions of Congress and those and if you heard those interviews. Some of them were disheartening at best. When you heard
you did so?
I saw some, but not all, man. Yeah, but one of the saddest moments was one of the Twitter execs who was being interviewed by Congressional Repeal, and the legitimate question was asked is, where did you study medicine?
Okay.
What gives you the right to devalidate a medical professional's opinion because it's not your opinion? And that was really what caused that. Not the fact that someone was spreading something that wasn't the truth. It's the fact that someone was spreading the truth
that
was
pertained
denied
to things connected to the
plan of operation
or the pandemic.
You know what? That's an opinion too. You know what? Even when Trump talked about the Kung flu, a lot of people took out of context or maybe truly in context when he said, we've been attacked. And he was alluding to biological warfare. And when you look at some of the things that happened over the course of an 18-month period, you look at the Chinese embassy that closed down in Houston and the burning of documents on its rooftop. That was documented. How
many people have you guys heard of that? Have you heard of that? I mean, I have, but most people haven't.
Most people haven't, and that was only on the news for like half a day.
Yes.
That's incredible. You're not allowed an embassy on U.S. soil because they caught you running an espionage hustle throughout all of Houston. Well, that's serious. And then you burn all the docks and you don't let people in. So that happens. Then you got the stuff with the guy over there in Pelosi's district. What's this guy? Oh man, young cat.
They had a fight.
Young cat.
He ordered a male prostitute, and they had a fight with a hammer or something.
No. This is the guy who was having an affair with a Chinese
Fang. Yeah.
I know that's the other one. That's Feinstein's. Yeah.
Oh, there's just so many.
There's a couple, and then you got the thing from Harvard. The professor from Harvard who got tried for espionage with the students from who weren't students, they were military from China, who both were at the lab that burned down Wuhan. Yeah, like when you look at those series of events in 18 months, and you think about like, were we really biologically attacked? It's like, I'm not saying that we were. I'm just saying there's a lot of those little circumstances that show like, damn, we should ask some questions.
Right.
And hopefully we can get some answers, man.
Right. I agree.
But yeah, man, carrying on with that, it's interesting because that whole process was not because somebody was spreading a lie. It's because somebody was trying to share truth and they were being denied of sharing that.
There were many doctors that were coming out with the effectiveness of ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine against, and one of them, the best one in my opinion, Dr. Zelenko, I think it was. Lev Zelenko.
No.
Anyway,
where's he from?
He died, unfortunately. He's from America. He's a Jewish guy. Was a Jewish guy. But he was teaching, and he was in New York, of all places, right? So he was actually healing people, and you can't say that. If you're a doctor, you can't say, I cured COVID. You can't say that, right? You can't say those things because it hasn't been proven by the gatekeepers, FDA, right? AMA, all those people have to approve it so that you could say those things. Anyway, he was legitimately curing people using these substances that had been FDA approved for generations.
For a long time,
right? So he was using these things to get people out of COVID when the plan was to get you intubated because there's money in it.
I mean, there's some belief in that. I pray that's not the case, man. It's just very concerning. We had a good doctor from the West Texas area who used to sit on the board for Texas's medical board.
Okay.
And he was appointed under Perry, and his county had a higher number of elderly people, and they had one of the lowest counts.
Was he the guy who used budesonide?
I want to say it was.
He called it the silver bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not like a crackpot. Like this guy's like an appointed.
I saw him on video articulate his case for that particular medication.
And then to see the stats within his own county, it's like, hey man, obviously this guy kept the people in his county who are statistically older and should have died, at the rates that everybody else did, at a much lower rate by simply implementing some precautionary measures. And it makes you concerned because you got to look at like, all right, man, like are we that misinformed, misdirected, and both of those are bad, or are we intentionally disregarding information that could be impacting human life? And then that's even more concerning.
Omar, unfortunately, I believe that the powers that be are so evil. They're not. I don't think they're bad guys. I think they're literally Satanists, and there is evidence for this.
See, you say that, and for the populace out there, mutiny, and this is from a movie, I think it's called Commander. Mutiny is only mutiny in the third person, and the path to hell starts with good intentions. So people don't wake up in the morning. Well, I mean, truly evil people do, right? You got people like Che who made a window so you could watch people get hung for breakfast, but that's but that's different. But then you got people who really really feel that they're changing the world for good. They just take it in this path that leads to the subsequent I don't want to say genocide.
I'll agree with you, but let me it won't be my label. It'll be from a guy named Lenin, who said that those people are
John Lennon?
Yeah. Imagine. Oh God, right?
I mean,
so
don't get me. Nah.
So this guy, Ilinov, right? As Walter from The Big Lebowski went off on that.
Yeah.
And he basically said that we need useful idiots, right?
You go throughout history and you realize that many people are viewed that way and used that way.
But those are the first to go in a communist regime. Like these people, these people who think that, oh, you know what? and I got a story. I don't know if we'll get to it, but I got a story about misgendering someone, right? So if you want to be called a she and I call you a he, now in Michigan, I'm liable to a felony charge for $10,000 fine.
No way, bro.
Way.
That's not possible.
Yeah. So, and I'll get into it in a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, you have these people that believe they're doing good. I have nothing against a man who wants to be a woman or a woman wants to be a man. I have nothing against those people, Omar. I have no ill will against them. I wish them the best. But we can't dictate from a place of what I'm going to call, this is me, I'm not bringing you into my jackpot, privilege. Why do I say that they're privileged? Because they have more press, they have more proponents, they have more feel-good organizations than the average guy who just goes to work.
I mean, last month, month of June, was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
You look at that, there's no big stink about it. No one talks about it. Chris Rock, comedians, one of the last places where you can be honest.
We hope.
Well, we can. Chris Rock says this. He goes, dogs, women, children are loved unconditionally. Men, there's conditions.
Yeah, you got a point.
And
that's not necessarily a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing. That's what made the world what it is today.
Right.
Whether people like that or not, it is a man's world. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
I'm not saying that it makes it better or worse. I'm just saying it's the world we live in today.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's dangerous though. It's dangerous to see grown men fighting grown women. That blows my mind. I think that that experience. I'm all for equality and rights, but I think there's something about the lunacy of perverting something that's just not right, man. Like, to justify me beating up a woman because I'm in a belt, or like I'm in a belt contention and I feel and I identify as a woman.
I agree.
I think that we're at fault though. I think society's wrong.
You're right.
For letting some poor lady get whooped by a guy that's obviously
in a UFC
bigger.
fight, one woman had her skull cracked. This guy who claimed to be a woman cracked her skull. Literally cracked her skull.
That's crazy though. But we allowed that. That's shameful.
Yeah.
Like, that's shameful.
I agree.
You let him get in the ring. It's totally dangerous.
We have to own that at some level.
Yeah, on some level you have to. Yeah, and you have to accept, like, dude, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it carries on though. It carries on with this Michigan law. Let me touch on that now that we touched on it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So where is it here?
Basic human rights are important, man. I think some people misconstrue that any one group of people should be deemed more worthy of rights. If we're entitled to them and it's our right, we should all be safe. We should all never fear being beat upon or preyed upon for whatever capacity.
This is from the Right Scoop. I dig for different viewpoints on.
That's cool. I've seen them before on Drudge and stuff. Yeah,
so
cool.
Michigan House passes bill that will make misgendering someone a felony.
That's so wild.
Yeah, a recently passed bill in Michigan could make it a felony to intimidate someone by intentionally using the wrong gender pronouns, according to some legal experts. Michigan State's House of Representatives has passed Bill HB 4474, a piece of legislation that criminalizes causing someone to feel threatened by words.
Have you seen that African-American guy that's on TikTok, and he's 30 years old, and he doesn't understand why he's been out of place his whole life, and he realizes it's because he's really a 30-year-old white guy with good credit.
He identifies as that.
And he's like, I have been, I have been out of place my whole life.
I've seen that,
and it's because I'm white.
Yes,
and I have good. And he's like, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, that's his right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if we're gonna give that, if you're gonna give it, and if he's gonna live it, if he's gonna be like, it's who I am. Who the hell are you?
But here's where that works, Omar. He's taking it to its logical conclusion. The powers that be want us to stop it. They don't want logic. They want agenda. They have no use for logic.
I would like good credit.
I know.
I would like to identify as a thin, in-shape, six-pack multi-billionaire. And ladies,
Joe, can you get on the video enhancer? Can you get that done?
You don't have that filter?
Can you get that done for Omar?
You don't have the Flaco filter?
The Flaco filter. Yeah.
Flaco con feria. It's the green one with the. That'd be great, right? But think about we're laughing about it.
Yeah.
But we're living it. At the same token, we're living that reality of I think we complicate stuff though, bro.
Oh, sure.
At the end of the day, if it's about taxes and property, make it about property and make it about taxes. If it's about insurance, make it about insurance.
Right.
But when you get this convoluted understanding of a construct that will push society into guys beating up girls, and me not being able to be rich and white and thin by my thought alone.
It's also about division, Omar. On some level, on many levels, it's about division. They don't want you and me getting together. They want to divide us, because if you and me start getting together and discuss things that bring us into commonality, we're stronger. We're a stronger nation.
I've seen that in the. I've seen that in the community conversation. Like, in talking to other people, most people would agree on what is logical, but they are not the people who go out and vote, and they're not the people who go out and write legislation.
Sure,
those people have other perspectives, and we're too busy. Most of us are too busy. You got 4 kids. You're at home. You're cooking dinner. You don't got time to go to county hall meeting. I
agree with
6:30.
you so much, Omar. But I don't know if you believe this, and I'm not. Again, won't put you in my jackpot. This has all been planned. There was a guy named Aaron Russo. Have you ever heard of Aaron Russo?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so he did Trading Places.
Trading Places. So he directed Trading Places. So I've seen a few interviews of the guy, right?
Yeah, man.
So he did an interview, and he was talking about his. It just happened surreptitiously. De repente, he had a friendship with David Rockefeller, and he was as surprised as anybody. And he's like, I had no idea why this guy.
The younger,
yeah. He says, I have no idea why this guy's talking to me. I have no idea why this guy considers my opinion this, that, or the other. But he says in one of their conversations, and he had it like you and I are having a conversation as equals, right? So he and David Rockefeller were talking, and David Rockefeller says to him, hey, what do you think about women's lib? Aaron's like, yeah, man, I think it was right. It was about time till, they could get, women could get to vote. It was about time till they had equal rights. It had this, that. He said, and David said something to the effect of, well, that wasn't really why we did it. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, the reason we did it was because now you have 2 people leaving the house. You're going to need 2 cars. You're going to need to provide lunch for 2 people. You're going to pay taxes on 2 incomes. You're going to need a wardrobe for 2 people. And the kids are going to be raised by the state.
Well, then when you look at that construct, and then you say being raised by the state, from a critical thinking perspective, man, you got to look at the straw man theory, and then realize that there's a possibility that each one of us, alive or dead, tomorrow, is worth an estimated $1.3 to $3.2 million in tax revenue over the course of our life.
Real quick, Dan says the breakdown of the nuclear family, which is exactly what I believe was intended.
I believe that the breakdown of the nuclear family was LBJ's fault and his war on poverty, causing single families to incentivize women leaving their husbands for the sake of more funding.
Interesting. I haven't heard that angle, but I'm interested to look at it.
It really is. It's sad, man. And statistically, that would help you get more children be wards of the state, which is what they want. And
LBJ was a super freak, man.
And LBJ, arguably through, and like they say, path to hell starts with good intentions. Arguably through the civil rights movement and the construct of funding for subpar living, it's like they say, man, teach a man to fish. Yeah. You teach him to feed himself. You give a man a fish, and he's going to keep getting fish.
Right, exactly.
So that construct and that basis, making a prominent move for single-family homes, destroyed the modern family. And impacted multiple generations of. You ever checked out Freakonomics, man?
I've heard of it. I think I may have touched at it a few times, but not a lot.
I tripped out with.
Who's behind that?
That's Friedman, World Economic professor. Wrote books like 2021 and The World is Flat, and a lot of political guys read his books, man. But very interesting. He talks about how Africa. Will be taken over by China and Russia, which is now happening. It's a book called 2022. It's happening now. But one of the things he talks about in the previous book, Freakonomics, they break down how, by killing all these children, he's talking about Roe versus Wade, and he's talking about by doing that, you'll save future generations because you're eliminating the impoverished. So it was really a eugenicist movement. Which is
of course, all the way.
Which it's just interesting. It's interesting.
Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger, yeah, man, founder of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, she was an avowed eugenicist.
Yeah, she was very interesting.
And a huge racist. I mean, if you look at abortion,
unwanted and undesirables is the correct term.
There you go. Yeah.
Unwanted, undesirables.
Yeah, we want to use the correct terminology here, ladies and gentlemen.
You got to be politically correct.
Yeah,
on those
exactly.
Things.
This is from Ms. Margaret Sanger, that is worshipped by the National Organization of Women and other organizations that don't really stand for women. My opinion. So,
I got a great joke for you one day.
Can we do it here?
Probably won't play over as well, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Works better
as long as there's no, any bad words or anything, because
no, man.
Okay. Sometimes kids watch.
Hey, got a job. Everybody starts clapping. All right, I'm like, I work for after 2 weeks of training.
This is your bit?
This is my bit. I go, after 2 weeks of training at a pizza party, I get to make Americans. That's right. I work for the Social Security office, ladies and gentlemen. I go, don't clap for me. I'm dead like the rest of you. I got to show up and answer questions and stuff, man. I go, but first day on the job, guy walks in. He goes, soy americano. I go, no, you're not, sir. You said that in Spanish. Have a seat. Guy sits down, and he goes, what's up? I go, what's up? What do you want to do? What do you want to do in this country? What are you going to do for a job, man? He goes, I got a good idea. I go, what is it? He goes, I want to sell drugs. I go, pfft. I go, bro, I'm from the South Side. I go, everybody wants to sell drugs. You can't sell drugs in this country. He goes, nah, man. I did my research, paid my taxes, keep good records, open a pharmaceutical company like Pfizer. I'm like, this guy's been in the country 30 seconds. He knows how to run it better than I do.
He knows the scam.
I'm like, all right, man. If plan A don't work, tell me you got a plan B. He goes, makes more money. I go, makes more money. I go, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to kill kids. I go, bro, you can't kill kids in America. He goes, no, man. I did my research. Pay my taxes, keep good records, open Planned Parenthood. I'm like, man, this guy's plan B is our plan A. I go, all right, man. I go, all right, if you can't sell us drugs and you can't and you can't kill our kids, bro, you got a plan C. He goes, yeah, makes the most money. I'm like, what is it? I go, let me guess. Pay your taxes, keep good records. He's like, yeah, man. He goes, open up a franchise, serve fast food, get people to die, then sell them the drugs, then kill their kids. I'm like, this message brought to you by your conscience, ladies and gentlemen. And all those three things you can do.
That's a good one. It's not good, but that's right on. It's
dark humor, but it's like you think about it, how sad though. After I've done that joke all across the country, bro, all across the country, and every kind of imaginable room, bro, from like a black room to like a Mexican room to
right. And it resonates with everyone.
And everybody after the show, they'll always walk up to me. Somebody walk up to me and be like, dude, that's messed up. That's funny. It's true, right?
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes. It's funny because it's true.
Because it's true. You can do all those things in this country. You just got to pay your taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, here's interesting now that you say that. And yeah, sure, I might be picking on the Bidens, but this is an interesting question. Do you think that they're going to have to pay taxes on the bribe money? Now it's up to $40 million.
You know, I'm really big on understanding the construct of how things work, and I've kind of accepted that one, no, they probably won't, and two, it's because it's probably a measure of national security, and I've accepted that. Like I'm kind of yet again probably one of my jokes in poor taste, but I would like to encourage political corruptness, but I would like to incentivize it by keeping tabs on it, and we get our percentage and they get theirs.
Sure.
And then
only fair, right?
Yeah, and then that way it's like when he gets his bonus, it's like, dude, you did the best job you could.
Yeah, as a politician.
As a politician, like you literally, and then we got our cut. You know, and that sounds messed up, but at the same token, it's already happening on some levels, and we're not getting our cut.
We're the ones not getting the cut.
Why would you know?
I understand completely. I understand completely.
There is a legal way to do that, by the way.
Do what? Get the cut?
Yeah, get the cut, and to give them their cut.
How is that?
Make incentivized politicians.
Is that kind of like along the lines where they do the NASCAR thing, where they wear their
kind of like the jacket,
their sponsors? Yeah. So they got their sponsor. Whoever bought them.
Yeah, like you got Halliburton right here.
Yeah. They're right there, and they just put it on their suit as they walk onto the.
Dude, I'm down. If you're gonna cut me a check for $500K, I will rock that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even.
It ought to be a law, right? It ought to be a law. Okay.
I don't know if I'd tat it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, for a mill, I'd tat.
But what's $1 million to a politician?
Nothing.
That's
why.
That's pocket
I'll
lint.
tat it. I don't know what it's gonna be. I'm gonna get a phone call tomorrow. Hey man, ridiculous called. I'm like, what is ridiculous? It just says ridiculous. Put it on your arm, dude. That's what it is.
Okay, we got something from Dan here.
What's up, Dan?
He says there's 3 people. 1, the common people, us. 2, the elite, Bidens. Persecuted, January 6th, Trump, etc.
The persecuted.
Okay. Can it be that simple?
Can it be that simple? I think that, and that's Dan, right?
Dan, yeah.
Wait, is that Dan the man or man the Dan?
That's Dan the man. Yeah.
Dan the man. For real, bro, you're so much more powerful than you give yourself credit for, bro. I truly believe that. I truly believe that when we unlock the power of language, you look at a Black's Law dictionary and you start to realize who you are and how
yes.
Like when you start to see, like, wait a minute, whoa, that's an entity. I'm a person. You need to talk to the entity, but I am the person. I represent that, but I am not that.
You are not who your license or your birth certificate says you are. Okay, I'm going a little bit deep there, and
That is pretty deep.
I might follow
That's
up
the
on
straw
that.
man theory. I'm down for that one.
Yes, you are not
we can go
that
down.
entity, because in effect, what the usual suspects have done to each and every one of us is made us franchises.
That goes back to the 1.3 to 3.2 million I was talking about earlier, because I'm pretty sure you've heard the term preferred stock and common stock. We're the most
Until they rewrite the dictionary.
Until they rewrite the dictionary, yes, you're right. We are common stock. This is how China gets our debt. They buy our future tax.
What's the collateral? What's the collateral?
We're the collateral. Our tax. We're each
our
one of us.
Lifespan,
our lifespan.
because you and I trade our time, which is
for dollars,
for money.
Yeah.
So our lifespan, they basically value it in or devalue it in their currency.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's interesting, but
many people don't.
It's our fault.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, I've been remiss. We need to make we're at just about the hour. Chihuahuas, great
Time
show,
flies,
Omar.
bro.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
It
Heck yeah, thanks
flies.
for having me on.
So what I want to do is I want to recap real quick some of the things. I didn't get to everything. There were 4 things that the Supreme Court and a lower court determined this week that I'm going to just say right out. So we had the race-based affirmative action programs were deemed unconstitutional. The same-sex, this was the lower court, said the same-sex wedding website, she didn't have to perform webmastering for same-sex weddings if it was against her religion.
If it was against her religion.
The student loan forgiveness deemed unconstitutional. And there was one more, which... Chihuahuas. I can't remember. There were 4 of them. So it was affirmative action. It was loan forgiveness, same sex, and there were one others. But I'm going to get to that, guys. But just suffice it to say, the big tech, they blocked big tech censorship. So that's when the government goes to Facebook, goes to Twitter, and says, you know what, that Omar guy, we want him shadow banned. We want him blocked. Facebook, we want that Bitcoin Otter guy off of your platform. And the government was doing that, is still doing it with some platforms successfully. And this is how the rigging aspect of the government dictating to social media platforms has become an issue. Okay, so those were the 4 things. I wanted to cover that real quick. Otherwise, I hope these things intrigue you. I hope these things interest you. I hope you want to know more. I am not an expert. I won't know everything. I'm sure Omar is the same way. He won't claim to know everything.
I was looking to learn, man.
So you can contact me at bitcoinotter.media@gmail.com. Omar, how do we contact you?
I'm old school Gary V style, 956-655-8144. 956-655-8144. And what can I tell you, man? If I can help you have some laughs, got a comedy show coming up next week. And 956-655-8144.
All right.
Dude, awesome show. Great subject matter. I bet your audience is lucky to have you, man.
And this was just, we bumped into each other in the front door. It's impromptu. It wasn't planned or anything. But also, please send me your information, and I'll put it on my Facebook page.
Awesome, brother.
So he's a local comedian, obviously someone who thinks we need more people like Omar.
You're too kind, my
around
friend.
here. So I'm going to close out. I'm going to say thank you to everyone, and I'm going to do one more thing, Omar. And this is what I told you earlier why I got into this business,
for sure,
and it was
man.
because I believe that at some point, at some level, God wants me to get some of these things out to the people.
For sure, man.
So I was trying to look for a verse that I would talk about, a biblical verse that I would talk to. That I would talk to people about, because I always like to leave on an upscale note, an uptone, right? So I was looking for Jeremiah 29:11, and this is what Jeremiah 29:11 says. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Okay, Jeremiah 29:11. Now, to my shame, my biblical knowledge is not as good as it should be. So I was looking at Jeremiah 3:11, but God in his infinite wisdom will, if we're watching, drop things on us that we did not expect. Your visit today. Thank you. But also, pre-show, I was doing the prep, Jeremiah 3:11, because I was looking for 29, but I didn't get it. Jeremiah 3:11. Listen to this, guys. And the Lord said unto me, this is Jeremiah, the backsliding Israel has justified herself more than the treacherous Judah. How does that pertain? Back in that day, there was a division between the Israelites. And it was two nations, Israel and Judah. So here he's saying, the Lord said to Jeremiah that the backsliding Israel, meaning they weren't perfect, they were going away from what God wanted them to do, but the backsliding Israel justified herself more than treacherous Judah. What does that mean? That means that there was a remnant of the nation, of the Israelites, the 12 tribes. There was a remnant that stayed to God, even though they were screwing up.
Most definitely. And in context, from 3:11 going to 29:11, you mentioned hope.
Amen, brother.
Hope is not, and that hope is the main message of the book of James, shortest book in the Bible,
Yes.
3 pages, incredible. Read it. Takes you 10 minutes. You can read it for a month. It's so full of so much knowledge. But 29:11, talking about hope, bro, it's incredible because that doesn't mean what we think it means. Hope means in Hebrew, hope. The hope itself, misericordia, is not it might happen. Hope is that it will. It is God's will. It is beyond your grasp and understanding of how it will arrive. But that is what the hope is. The true nature of hope is the trust.
Amen, brother.
In that.
And,
so
and in some way, our hope, fostered and watered and cared for by prayer, will seed the result.
Amen.
God will use it in some way or form to bring it about.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't have to happen because of us, but we can play a part because that's what he wants.
That's what he wants. Awesome.
Man.
Super good
Brother,
show. Look forward to seeing you and conversing in the future, my friend.
Amen, brother.
Much love.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Again, contact us if you will. Just rewind it if it's you're on the replay. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. God bless you and your families. May all be well, and if not, may God be with you.
Let's go! This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
I really appreciate you coming by. This is
On 97.7 FM, The City.